Welcome back to another class on Evean Halacha series. We are in Siman Aleph in Halacha Yud, in the Pitchei Tishu and Otet Vav, in the Berhetav and Ot Chav Aleph. This will be part 12b of the Shi'ur. Today we have an amazing Chacham Tzvi. We began speaking about when the Shulchan Aruch said Vechen ba'arusa, that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa. Came the Ramah, and the Ramah said, Im einu rotzeh liknos ela liftor. When are we going to say that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa? That is specifically if he does not want to marry her, but rather divorce her. But if he wants to marry her, the way we understood up to now is that the Chen, according to the Ramah, that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is applicable. After we're going to see the Pshat of Chacham Tzvi, something's going to change at about time. We could change the Peshat that we've been learning in the Ramah to mean something else. Before we do that, let's see over here. Let's see right over here. I'm going to tell you outside, and then I'll read it for you inside. Be'ezrat Hashem. Comes the Chacham Tzvi, and the Chacham Tzvi is going to tell us like this. Do you know what the Ramah really meant when he said, Im einu rotzeh liftor ela liknos? Do you know what the Ramah was really saying when he was saying that language? If you don't want to marry her, but rather divorce her, he was not coming to teach us whether the cherem is applicable or not. He was just coming to try to show us or teach us that one shouldn't make a mistake and think something else. Watch this. The Chacham Tzvi is going to tell us like this. Shelo titeh. What the Ramah was really doing was telling us like this, that one shouldn't make a mistake. Yesh lo arusa. For example, if a person has an arusa, let's say Sarah, he would have thought to say, okay, so let me make this clear. From these words, shalot titeh, until the red period over here, all this we don't want to do. All this is a very big mistake. All right, what I'm about to say from here till the end is one big mistake. That you shouldn't say. So one shouldn't make a mistake and say like this. Yesh lo arusa, if a person has an arusa, let's say Sarah. V'rashay lekachat isha acheret alecha, and he's allowed to take another woman on Sarah, let's say Leah. A person shouldn't make this mistake. So let me just tell you right now, I want you guys to be able to get it. Watch this. When the Shulchan Aruch said v'chein ba'arusa, what did he mean? When the Shulchan Aruch said v'chein ba'arusa, that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa, what did he mean? So we would have thought to say, from the words of the Shulchan Aruch, when he says v'chein ba'arusa, it's implied even if you want to marry her, meaning even if you want to go ahead and marry Sarah again, you're allowed to go ahead and take Leah. That's what came to remind. The Ramah says clearly, Im einu rotzeh liknos. No. That is specific when you don't want to marry Sarah. Rather, you want to divorce her. Then the Shulchan Aruch is going to tell you, Vechen ba'arusa. Then the Ramah is going to tell you that the cherem is not applicable by the arusa. Rabotai, one more time. When the Shulchan Aruch says, Vechen ba'arusa, that the cherem Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the arusa, you would have made this implication. When he says Vechen ba'arusa, you would have said that he's allowed to go ahead and take himself another wife, since there's no Chen Rabbeinu Gershom, and come back and take the original Arusa back to him. Comes the mother one says, no. Don't make that mistake in the Shulchan Aruch. That he just tells you, Im einu rotzeh liknos. Because you would have thought to say that really it's implied from the language of the Shulchan Aruch, if you want to marry her, so you want to marry her. Correct? You want to marry her. Here we go, like this. Right? You want to marry her. So comes the Ramah, he tells, no. Im einu rotzeh liknos. Don't make this mistake. Don't make this mistake. What the Ramah is telling you like this. When the Shulchan Aruch says, V'chein ba'arusa, when the Shulchan Aruch says that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa, he's just telling you, listen, the cherem is not applicable, but don't make a mistake thinking you could go out and take another woman and then marry back the original Arusa. That you shouldn't do. That's what he tells you. Im einu rotzeh liknos. That's only if you don't want to marry her, but rather divorce her. All right, so let me see this. Let's try to do this everything inside and let's see how it goes. Because Rabotai, the language is a little bit tricky, okay? So let me try to do this again over here. So watch this now. Shalotite, one shouldn't make a mistake. Right? When the Shulchan Aruch says V'chen ba'arusa, I could have made the mistake of thinking, Yesh lo arusa, if a person already has an arusa, let's say Sarah. He would have thought to say, since there's no Chen Rabbeinu Gershom, he's allowed to go ahead and take another woman on top of Sarah, which is Leah. Now the Chacham Tzvi is going to continue and explain to you, Lama shniya eina asura. Why shouldn't the second one, Leah, be forbidden on Sarah? How is she mutar to begin with? How is she permissible to begin with? So the Chacham Tzvi is going to answer, Kevin harishona eina od ishto. Because since Sarah, the arusa, is still not his wife. She's only an arusa. She's in the first stage of kiddushin. She never did nisuin. Now, so a person would have said to himself, good. Yes, arusa. Why is he allowed to marry the second one? Since the first one is not asur because it's still not his wife. But after he marries Leah, what is this chacham going to do? And afterwards, he's going to go and he's going to marry the first one, Sarah. Why? He's allowed to do it. You would have thought, since when you did Kiddushin with her, you did it in a permissible manner, which it really was, because he had no other woman. He was not married to any woman yet. Kamashuman comes the Ramah to teach you, that this whole process is asur. That he's not allowed to think that he has an arusa, he's allowed to go and marry another woman on top of her, and then come back and remarry Sarah. That he's not allowed to do. And that's why the Ramah tells you over here, when the Shulchan Aruch says, V'chen ba'arusa, and so too by the arusa, that the Chen Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable, you would have to say the language from the Shulchan Aruch is implied, even if you want to marry her again, meaning Sarah, after you married Leah, now you're allowed to go out and you're allowed to marry Sarah back. Comes the Ramah tells like this, listen, do me a favor. No. Don't make that mistake that you're allowed to get married to her. That's he tells you if you don't want to marry her, because you're really not allowed to marry her. Don't make that mistake that you're allowed to marry her. You're not allowed to marry her. But rather you have to go out and you divorce her. Then we'll tell you you're allowed to get married to Leah. Now Rabotai. But otherwise, if you want to marry her, Sarah, after marrying Leah, that you shouldn't do. That's what the Ramah was coming to teach us. From here, you could argue that the Ramah also doesn't hold of the cherem for the arusa. From here, you could say, if like we want like Chacham Tzvi, that is going to go ahead and explain to us over here, that's what the Ramah is really saying. He's explaining the Shulchan Aruch. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, the cherem Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable. So we're going to tell you, it's really never applicable by the arusa. So what was the Ramah really telling you? That we shouldn't make that mistake. That he shouldn't think that he's allowed to marry Leah and then come back and marry Sarah, which is the arusa. All right, Rabotai, I hope that was clear. Let's try to see it inside in the Ber Heitev now. In the response of the Chacham Tzvi, in question 124, he wrote, the explanation in the Ramah in this that he wrote, if he does not want to marry, but rather he wants to divorce her, right over here. Do you know what this explanation over here means? Comes the Chacham Tzvi and he's explaining to you. Do you know what the Ramah was really coming to do over here? Was coming really to say, this is what he was trying to actually teach us, right over here. Here we go. Hainu, that means to say like this. You shouldn't make a mistake. That if he has an arusa, Sarah, he's allowed to go ahead and marry another woman on top of her, Leah. Even though in his mind he wants to go back and marry Sarah. And for the reason, do you know why the second one is not going to be forbidden on him? Since the first one, Sarah, is not his wife. She's an arusa. But she didn't do the second stage of marriage, which is the nisuyin. V'gam, וגם and so too, and also, הראשונה תהיה מותרת לכנוס אחר נישואי שנייה. And also the first one, he's going to go ahead and be able to marry her after he went ahead and he married the second one. Why? Because he married her, he did the kiddush in a permissible way, like I explained. When he did the kiddush, he had no wife. Kamash Malan comes the Ramah to teach us the asur, that it is asur. It is asur to do this. That's all the Ramah was trying to tell us. Watch this, Rabotai, now. Watch this one more time. One more time. When the Shulchan Aruch said V'chem ba'arusa, that the Chemra B'nei Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa, I would have made the mistake thinking it's implied even if you want to marry her after marrying the second one. You would have thought you could come back and marry the Arusa. Since there's no Chemra B'nei Gershom, I'm allowed to marry Leah and then come back and marry Sarah again. That's what comes the Ramah. The Ramah tells you, don't make that mistake. That's what he tells you. Im eino rotzeh liknos. See right here, if you don't want to marry, so we see from over here, a person is not allowed to go ahead and marry Leah and then come back and marry Sarah. That he is not allowed to do. That's what I'm trying to tell you over here. Im ein rotzeh liknos, ela liftor. That we're telling you over here that a person should make the mistake, think that he could go back and marry her, but rather, what does he have to do? He has to go ahead and he has to divorce her. But Rabotai, I want to tell you like this. From this Ramah, you could learn, from this Chacham Tzvi, the way he wants to learn the Ramah, you could explain that it's going like the Bash in Od Chavbet, where he learns that the Ramah over here is explaining that the Chemra B'nei Gershom is not applicable also by the Arusa. All the Ramah was doing in this situation is explaining to us that one shouldn't come and make a mistake and think when the Shulchan Aruch says V'chein ba'arusa that the Chemra of B'nei Gershom is not applicable. You would have thought to say, let him go and marry another woman and then come back and marry the first one again. Comes the Ramah and he says, no. Don't make that mistake of remarrying her, meaning coming back and marrying her. That you cannot do. Rather, what you have to do, you have to divorce her. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch really means. And so to by the Arusa, the Chemra B'nei Gershom is not applicable. You're right, he's allowed to go and marry another woman. But do me a favor, don't come back and marry the first Arusa, but rather what are you going to do? Rather, you're going to go ahead and you're going to divorce her. Rabotai, I hope that is clear. I'll do one more time review with you guys. But tomorrow we'll see that the Chacham Tzvi himself argues on this whole Halacha. Now the reason why I'm telling you from here, you could argue that the Ramah also doesn't hold of the Cherem for the Arusa, is because if you're going to say in the world of Chacham Tzvi that he does hold of the Cherem B'nei Gershom, then if he's explaining the Shulchan Aruch, then that means that the Shulchan Aruch is holding of the Cherem B'nei Gershom, like we learned before. But we know that the Shulchan Aruch is not holding of the Cherem B'nei Gershom. In any event, there's a lot of going back and forth and understanding what does it mean im ein rotzeh liknos ela liftor. I think this is already probably the 5th or 6th understanding in the Ramah. 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably even more, Rabotai, probably even more on how to go ahead and understand this. Because over here he also says, Ubeit Hillel piresh Ramah be'inin achi ansham. Beit Hillel, he explained the Ramah in a different way. Look over there. Ve'ain bash sivkat and chavbet. And he says, look into the bash in sivkat and chavbet. In any event, Rabotai, we see from over here, when the Shulchan Aruch says, V'chein ba'arusa, when the Shulchan Aruch said that the Cherem B'nei Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa, and came the Ramah to say, Im ein rotzeh liknos ela liftor, all the Ramah was doing is trying to teach us, one shouldn't make a mistake and think that he's allowed to go ahead and marry another woman on top of his Arusa, and then come back and remarry the Arusa. That's why the Ramah had to tell you, Im ein rotzeh liknos, if you don't want to marry her, but rather divorce her, then go ahead and marry, yeah, you're right, there's no cherem on you, go marry whoever you want, but don't come back and marry the original Arusa. That you shouldn't do. Alright, that's what we concluded. But otherwise, if you do want to marry her Sarah, after marrying Leah, that you shouldn't do. Okay, Rabotai, we're going to conclude over here.